everyone back to a special bonus episode of Screenplay Rewind. I'm Geoff.
I'm Ron.
And instead of our typical format, we figured we'd have a little bonus episode, which we expect to not go as long as we usually do, which means this one will probably only be an hour and a half instead of 3.
Right.
So that's a mini by our standards. But we want to talk about Wonder Woman 84.
This is a movie that we were both very excited to see. We both loved the first one. We will be going into full spoilers right from the get-go. So you've got a month from the time of release to watch it on HBO Max. So if you have not seen it yet, I would recommend sign up for a free trial or something and going and checking it out before listening.
And despite the mixed reviews it has gotten, I still recommend people go ahead and watch it if they have HBO Max, because what the fuck else are you going to watch? Like, shit.
If you already have HBO Max, it's literally costing you nothing additional.
Yeah, it costs you 2 hours. What is it, like 2 hours and 20 minutes, something like that? And it's like, there's nothing else going on in the world, so you might as well just watch it.
2 hours, 31 minutes.
This movie is fucking baffling to me, dude. I was watching this movie right on Christmas Day, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, well, this is kind of dumb. And then I watch the movie. I'm just kind of like bored. I'm just like watching it. It's fine. It's not like offensive to me. So I'm just like, this is fine. I didn't like hate my life as I was watching it, like I did during Rise of Skywalker. But as soon as the movie hit credits and my brain clicked at all what I just watched, I was like, huh, that was really fucking dumb. And I don't hate this movie. This movie ain't good, bro. Like,
so
kind of bad.
When I say I enjoyed this movie, I enjoyed the first movie the way I enjoy like one of the Avengers movies, right? Like Endgame or something one of the intense ones. I enjoyed this one the way that I enjoyed like the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie or Venom or
it feels like a 90s superhero movie.
It feels like a 90s superhero movie.
In like the worst ways possible. Like
I thought Kristen Wiig was going to become Electro by the way they started her out. I just thought she was going to become Electro for some reason. I was like, this is weird.
By the way, I'm super glad that one person on Twitter made that collage of Jamie Foxx's Electro. Yeah, I think I had seen it before you'd send it to me. But so someone made a collage of the most specific trope in superhero movies that needs to fucking stop. And
it had like Uma Thurman and
it would also, I think it all traces back to Michelle Pfeiffer in Batman Returns.
Probably.
Because they have these fucking characters. They have fucked up hair and nerdy big glasses, and they act like a goofball, and they're awkward. And then as soon as they get their, quote unquote superpowers or whatever, they turn into like the sexy, like, like super badass or, like whatever. And it's just like, I'm so glad that someone pointed that out, because maybe it'll stop now, because it really needs to stop.
It really needs to stop.
It is such a brutal trope, because like, okay, what I want to start with on this is I was super bummed out about this just because of how much I liked the first movie, because I also really fucking liked the first movie.
First movie is amazing.
And I think back to the first movie, and it's like you have this awesome World War I movie that just happens to be starring a superhero. And you're fighting Ares, the fucking god of war, who has, like kind of spurned all of these horrible events in history. And he's kind of like
Did you enjoy that? I thought I was the only person that liked the Ares spin.
I actually liked their.
I've never heard anyone else say, like, everyone always says that it's a good movie up until Ares, and I'm like, why? He's a fucking Justice League villain. He's a thing.
Yeah, like, people.
They straight up told you at the beginning of the movie that he's the villain.
People, for whatever reason, have like a big problem with the Wonder Woman third act in the first one, and people complain about it because it's like, well, it just turns into a big CGI explosion fest where where Wonder Woman fights the bad guy.
Movie.
Every superhero movie ends that way. Every superhero movie ends in a big green screen. Like, what else are they going to do? Are they just going to like
Did
talk
they not
in the
go
movies
see
over?
Endgame? Did they forego Endgame?
And like the last fucking hour of Endgame is just a giant fucking green room with 1,000 characters fighting Thanos and his dudes. Like,
which, by the way, aren't even all on set at the same time.
Yeah. I just don't get it.
Okay. Well, the last thing I will say about the Ares thing, because I know different movie, but the first movie is not just a superhero movie. It's also Clash of the Titans, right? They're Greek gods fighting it out in World War I on a tarmac. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I didn't really get that either. Now, like, I do agree that the first and second act of Wonder Woman are probably better than its third act, but that doesn't make it bad by default.
Yeah,
just by comparison. Like,
it turned into a different movie, but that movie was still good.
And it's appropriate for the genre. Okay, so this was the one of the first things that like really rubbed me the wrong way about this movie too. What's the significance of 1984 in this film, Ron?
Zero.
Zilch. Nothing. It is a completely irrelevant setting for it.
People praise the first one so much for being set in World War I instead of World War II that they just picked another time period you don't see a lot stuff set in anymore. And I guess 1984 is a very specific year for some reason,
which is really weird because it's the fact that it's in 1984 is so hollow. It's such a hollow setting for this movie. And for
it's almost like a Ready Player One type move, right? Just nostalgia button over and over. Like, remember fanny packs?
It's just weird, you know. It's not only a hollow setting, but they decided to make it integrated into the title, which confounds me even more. But okay, so this is, and I want to just compare it back to Wonder Woman 1, and you'd mentioned
this movie felt like a 1984 superhero movie.
I think you disrespect superhero movies from the 80s because holy shit, I'd rather be watching Superman 2 than
the Toxic Avenger.
The Toxic Avenger. So World War I was not picked just to be different. The writers of the first movie specifically like set the movie in World War I for a reason, because World War I actually like sets up the theme of the film. Because Wonder Woman 1 is all about in the face of, you know, bleak circumstances, choose humanity. And with World War I, it is the most brutal war in history.
Yes.
And, you know, they have like, you have guys, you know, using mustard gas on each other. And, you know, it's a very, because World War II wouldn't really work as a setting for the theme they were going for, because World War II was pretty much good guys versus the bad guys, you know. There you have a clear cut, you know, the Nazis are obviously evil and you have a good guy and a bad guy side. World War I was a little bit more gray. World War I, you know, it wasn't just the Germans that were using mustard gas. The British started using. All right, well, 2020 strikes again. Ron's OBS crashed in the middle of the episode, so rip Jeff's train of thought. But I believe our OBS is almost as much of a train wreck as Wonder Woman 1984.
Ooh.
Okay, so my train of thinking, if I recall correctly, I was saying that World War II would not have been a good choice for the setting of the first movie because they needed to be World War I, because she's supposed to be presented with the fact that like all humans are both good and bad.
Right.
Like, we all have that aspect within us. Like 5 months into World War I, like a lot of people don't know this, there was an unofficial Christmas truce.
Yep.
Like
there's a song about it.
It's just crazy that, you know, the most brutal war in history in its first few months had a Christmas truce. And that's kind of like the humanity theme within the first movie. So you have like this wonderful setting that perfectly matches the theme that it's going for. And with Wonder Woman 2, we're just going to throw it in the 80s because fuck it. There is no, like, they don't even use an 80s soundtrack, really. There's like one 80s song.
The only thing I could think of for the 80s setting is the oil crisis. Did that start around 84-ish? It was mid 80s, right?
I thought it was in the 70s, but I
there was another one. There was more than one.
And that's another thing. So it's like in the first movie, our setting is World War I, and we're fighting the god of war. And in the sequel, we're fighting an oil tycoon with a magic wishing rock.
Uh-huh.
What?
So someone's a big Wishmaster fan.
How did how is it like? How did this get past the dry erase board in the writer's room? I don't get it, dude. Like, how did no one realize, hey, the magic wishing rock is kind of lame? Oh, and the oil tycoon. Like this sounds like the fucking tail end of the Christopher Reeve Superman films, not like a modern $200 million DC, like, superhero epic. Right. I don't get it, dude. I don't get it.
I guess we did kind of have a kryptonite reference in there, huh?
The beginning of the movie is so Richard Donner Superman, like just the tone, the music swells, and they're like, because Geoff Johns he co-wrote this movie with Patty Jenkins, and yes. I fucking love Geoff Johns as a comic book writer. Geoff Johns should not be writing screenplays. I can almost guarantee you the Wishing Rock idea came from Geoff Johns, because that's a type of story element that
I didn't know if it was. I didn't know if it would have been him or that David Callahan guy I was talking to you about in the green room, because he wrote. He was one of the writers in this movie, as well as Patty Jenkins and Geoff Johns, and he wrote Doom, The Expendables, Godzilla 2010. He did a production rewrite apparently on the original Ant-Man movie. He did Zombieland Double Tap. Anything that people have hated, pretty much, with the exception of Ant-Man, his name is attached to. Yeah, it's just this is so the Wishing Rock MacGuffin is a story element that people would accept in a comic book. They don't accept it in like a modern superhero movie. Like the bar has been raised. The fucking Batman Begins and The Dark Knight and Iron Man and Endgame and all these like fantastic movies have happened. Like the Endgame is like the most perfect time travel movie based on actual factual science of how we think time travel works. And we got a wishing stone.
And it's like, and since I can't blame a certain person, I have to blame all of them, because somebody should have sat back and like realized, guys, we can't do this. It's a bad idea. Like,
I feel like part of it is everybody hated the Ares stuff. So, well, we can't do that. We can't have a big climactic CGI fight scene.
They did it anyway.
Did they? I mean, kind of.
They did it with Cheetah.
Kinda?
They just kept it in the dark. They did it again, but they actually made it
why they kept it in the dark, right?
Bitched about in the first one. Yeah, because the CGI was bad.
Yep.
How is this movie like? This movie looks like shit. In so many situations, I don't understand.
It is easily a $250 million movie, Jeff.
Like,
why does it look like garbage?
The first movie looked better, and the crazy thing about it, this movie was originally supposed to come out in theaters in May, so they had more time to work on the CGI. I don't get it, dude. I don't get it. There's scenes where Wonder Woman is meant to be running in an action sequence, like one of the major action sequences, and she looks like she's just floating.
Yeah, like she's on a dolly.
They didn't even have her on like running on like a treadmill. Like it would have looked more realistic, literally having her run on a treadmill.
I'm willing to bet that someone was like, you can't make her look like Flash, because in the next 30 years we have a Flash movie that might come out.
No, the movie's not ever happening.
The movie's not ever happening, but I know someone said that you cannot have her look like Flash, even though it's perfectly acceptable to have Superman kind of look like Flash. Everyone gets to move fast how you're going to move. So I don't understand why it would be a big deal, but...
While we're talking Wishing Rock, this movie
had some stones, Jeff.
No, it really did not. This movie's internal logic when it comes to that stupid fucking rock is insane to me. Okay, so you're telling me this magical wishing rock can magically raise walls in Egypt all the way around the city, but we can't have it magically make a body for Steve Trevor. We have to kidnap this poor engineer guy for 2 fucking weeks. He's fired from his job. His fucking family hasn't been able to get a hold of him in like 2 weeks. This fucking guy's whole life has been like because
I don't think did he have a family?
Well, they don't really talk about it. They talk about how he has pictures of himself, but like
isn't that the implication though?
The dude surely had like family. He didn't have like a wife and kids,
parents, and
he had a job. He had parents. You have to assume because they don't specifically say. So like this dude, like Just have the wishing rock make him a fucking new body. Why? Why is that the hill you're dying on? Like,
I think that's supposed to be part of the monkey's paw thing. I think it's supposed to be monkey's paw. He's in a different body. Like, I didn't understand if you're going to do that having the Chris Pine thing, but that and the immortality.
That's not the monkey's paw though. The monkey's paw with Trevor coming back is Wonder Woman losing her powers. Right,
but I think part of it is supposed to be just ditching him in some guy's body. So one of the confusing things is, we're seeing him as she sees him, so we can have Chris Pine as opposed to a different actor playing Steve Trevor. But anytime he looks in a mirror, it's the other guy.
It's just so fucking stupid and convoluted because they literally just could have had, because they don't give a shit.
No,
because the whole part of the monkey's paw is that you're supposed to have like a negative reaction to it. They have a negative reaction to obviously Wonder Woman losing her powers. They don't give a shit that they've kidnapped that dude.
I thought her powers slowly waning was interesting. I would give them that. Yeah, because her powers didn't just disappear. Like, she's going on around being Wonder Woman, and then all of a sudden, like, she gets shot, and you're like, wait, what? And then all of a sudden, she's starting to have strength issues, and like she just gets worse as the movie goes on. I'll give them that one.
Those parts were cool, but they missed another like easy narrative thing where how Cheetah's wish is she wants to be like Diana. Yeah. Why didn't they just have it where she was stealing her powers,
right?
Like slowly, because that makes more sense. Like
it does.
This movie had so many ways to make the plot less convoluted, and in like every instance did the opposite and made the movie because they never once establish that Pedro Pascal is going to be able to just yoink shit willy-nilly because of the monkey's paw. And he just starts like, okay, so I did this and this and this, and he can like control the monkey's paw. And it's just like, it just goes from like 0 to 60 in half a second. And I don't know.
They took Richard Donner Superman, rammed it with Wishmaster and Quantum Leap, and churned that out as a movie. Is what they did. Like, it was someone who just loves those three things and wanted to make one movie.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen Wishmaster? Because that's exactly what Pedro Pascal was. Wishmaster is about a djinn, right? Which we call a genie, but the actual demon djinn that is trying to free like all of his brethren from hell or this other dimension or something. He has no control over the wishes. Whatever you wish on him, it comes true, but he gets to determine what that wish is worth, and that's how he's getting what he wants. And he's doing the monkey's paw thing of like turning things on people and all of that. And the person that ends up beating him realizes he's not the one actually. He's not in control of making the wishes happen. So she makes a wish in such a way that it gets rid of him. Because he has no power over the wish. He can only control what the price of the wish was. And that is basically where Pedro Pascal was.
Yeah. I don't know what to make of the whole... The Pedro Pascal character seems to be like a big...
He was my favorite character in it besides Wonder Woman.
I thought he was like doing the best that he could, but... They kept trying to like ram pathos down my throat of like making me give a shit about him and his kid, and I just don't, because the dude was an asshole.
We didn't need
every turn.
We didn't need the kid.
They try to make it out to be like you don't even see like his comeuppance at the end. You don't even see what really happens with his character.
No, nothing happens to him.
He randomly finds his kid in the middle of a forest outside the city, and he has a hug, and that's the end of his character. They don't ever talk about. He almost ended the fucking world, but he had a hug with his son, so now they're just fine? Question mark. I don't know.
Yeah, he's still a shit, even if his son hugs him.
He's an asshole.
Yeah,
like, he's a complete prick.
Yeah,
and just because he like wants to make it up to his son, that doesn't redeem.
You cannot tell me that his character is not based on Donald Trump. You cannot tell me.
It depresses me that they even felt the need to do that. Like, I don't want to be reminded of Donald Trump in my fucking Wonder Woman movie.
And it says right here that on Wikipedia that some people thought this movie was cliche, but other people praised it for its escapist qualities. I'm like, I was watching a whole movie about Donald Trump getting his every wish come true. How is that escapist?
Yeah, it's so frustrating. And like I was talking about,
I'm sorry to take this that path, but you cannot tell me that that's not who he was.
You can't watch it and not be in the back of your
Regardless,
head.
politics aside, you cannot tell me that's not who that was.
What's also really frustrating about it is, like I was saying, like they're trying to this movie's artificially trying to create pathos all over the fucking place, which it came so natural in the first. I watched the first Wonder Woman earlier today just to rewatch it because it'd been a while since I'd seen it. I didn't watch it before the sequel came out. I just got around to doing it today. And the No Man's Land sequence still almost makes me tear up.
It did
it's
me.
So good.
So I watched this movie the night after I rewatched the first one, and that was some shell shock. But it
was shell shock for me, even having last seen Wonder Woman 1 2 years ago.
But the No Man's Land scene is still. I am a white dude that is rapidly careening towards middle age, and I felt fucking empowered still watching that scene. That scene is so incredible.
The sequence that follows it up, where she's saving the village, is fucking awesome too. Nothing in the sequel gets anywhere in that realm at all. Yeah. And I just don't know what happened. I really think I would probably be more forgiving of this movie's script problems if it had been rushed, but the Wonder Woman 1 came out 3 years ago. Yeah. That's a standard. It came out
3 years ago, and they greenlit this movie immediately, I think, opening weekend of the first movie.
Yeah, this movie had more than enough time for this to be made better and not have rushed shitty CGI, and I don't know what happened with the budget, if it was allocated incorrectly or what the fuck happened. They had more time to fix shit too because of COVID.
Right.
And it's just baffling to me. I really think it has to be the new writing team. Because I think what also probably helped the first movie is the first Wonder Woman was also kind of in development hell for a long, long time. It went through tons and tons of different incarnations. Actually, Joss Whedon was originally going to write and direct it. I don't know if you're aware of that.
I have a question. Not to derail you, but I was just thinking about something. What was the point of the first 20 minutes of this movie?
Oh, the mascara chase?
Yeah.
I don't fucking know. They try to make it out like it ties in with the theme of the film, which it doesn't. Because
is it the cheating thing? Because she cheated?
So here's the thing. They try to set it up.
That's not a 1-to-1.
Yeah, it's not at all. I thought the same thing.
Wishing a dead person that you loved could come back is not the same as just cheating in a game.
Yeah, they try to make it out like that cheating is the 1-to-1 relation with the theme of the film, as far as the wishing. The theme with the wishing is not cheating; it's selfishness versus selflessness. That's the theme
of the film. Yeah, the theme of the film should have either stuck with that or just be careful what you wish for. Right? That could just as easily also, because she made a wish, became mortal. Cheetah made a wish, became a fucking animal, and Pedro Pascal, it was costing him his health to be granting these wishes.
And because he had just become the stone, so it was something that a mortal can't physically do without dying.
Right.
But so I think also the beginning sequence and the very end sequence, I think they were both written after the movie had already been completed. I think they were made just so that HBO Max could say that they had HDR Dolby Vision, because those were the two sequences that were actually in the Dolby Vision, and the interior part of the movie outside of the ending scene near Christmas, which obviously makes sense that it would be a last minute edition because they wanted to tie it in with it releasing on Christmas Day. So I think that was released. I'm sorry. I think the Christmas scene at the very end near the credits was filmed within the past couple of months, and I think the opening Themyscira scene was filmed a few months ago when they started, because they had to have known longer than when they told everyone it was going to be dropping for Christmas. They probably knew for several months what they were going to do because of COVID and the way the COVID lockdown was trending. But I think that's also why it doesn't make any fucking sense because it was just kind of a throwaway thing just to get them that because I was excited when I even texted you about it because HBO Max, this was the first time they launched Dolby Vision or HDR and anything, and it was for 5 minutes of the movie pretty much. So that's a letdown because as soon as the movie switched, I was like, well, that's a bummer.
Yeah, there was that, and so the movie for no reason needs to be 2.5 hours long.
Oh, I know. This movie could have been easily an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah, and I want to know, do you remember, because if memory serves me, Patty Jenkins was not originally attached to this film and then came back, because I remember reading news about how she was there, she wasn't, and then she was. How much of it has to do with what we saw in the script, and how much of the parts we liked was her when she came back?
I never heard that. I thought she was always attached to it, like from the get-go, but you could be right, because I don't...
My understanding was everybody was like, well, they've announced this movie, but they haven't talked about Patty Jenkins. And then, like, at some point, they announced Patty Jenkins again. I'm pretty sure I remember that. It's been 3 fucking years, but... development.
I thought when they announced the film, they announced it with her coming back, but I could be mistaken.
As I know, it says here she signed for one film, so she wasn't initially attached just then, but 2017.
We would have to.
I would have to.
We'd have to do more research on it.
That's a thing that I remember, though. I don't know if it's right. It's a thing I remember. I remember a lot of my news podcasts being like, so they're talking about Wonder Woman, but no one has mentioned Patty Jenkins in a while.
I think she had been... Because she has a screenwriting credit, so...
Which makes me wonder when she came back.
I don't know.
If she didn't say, nope, throwing this out.
And like you were talking about how long the movie is, she's in Wonder Woman, I'm pretty sure, is in costume one time in the first hour and a half, and it's just like, what is happening? And
again, harkening back to old style fucking superhero movies, because they're always the superhero at the end, pretty much.
Yeah, they spend so much fucking time with Cheetah, and I just couldn't give less of a shit about her character.
Why did we need her? Why was she even a thing?
She had to fight somebody in the third act, Ron. She had to fight someone in the dark and really shitty CGI.
She can't punch Mando. The whole first movie is her against World War I German soldiers.
No, they have to have a third act where she fights someone in CGI, bro.
But not, because we don't want to repeat Ares.
No, but they did, but they made it worse. They did. They just thought they just threw in the shit with Mando, because like, hey, technically the final thing wasn't a CGI battle. Huh?
It was a speech.
It was a speech.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. And people complain about the ending of the first movie. Why? Like,
I don't know. Well, you're welcome. If you complained about the end of the first movie, you're welcome from DC and Warner Brothers.
It's such a weird... It's such a weird thing. Like everything about this movie is just baffling to me, and it's not all like I love Gal Gadot and Chris Pine together. I think they're awesome together, and in both movies, I think their chemistry is really good. I think their whole thing about having Steve randomly have to take and like also they talk about how people like I think they talk about towards the end of the movie where people aren't gonna remember shit for whatever reason, or they do. So. Did that dude not just have a complete panic attack when he looked at a fucking calendar and he's like, where have I been the past 10 days? I'm just so concerned about this poor dude who just... I mean, there are worse things that could happen to you when you're kidnapped than like having sex with Wonder Woman, but it's still kind of a bummer that they just don't give a shit that they're taking the dude away from his family and job for a week and a half, you know? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, out of all the problems this movie has, that's not the one in the forefront of my mind.
Oh, there are articles all over the internet about it. People are really taken aback by that storyline. And as soon as I started like thinking about it more and like hearing their observations, I'm like, huh, That is really weird because it didn't have to be a plot line at all if they just have the magic rock give him a fucking body. But so here's a plot element that I actually was expecting to see that they didn't talk about whatsoever. So the first movie, it's been 70 years since World War One. So Diana at this point has pretty much seen all of her friends die of old age, you know? That would be a big thing for her character because she's used to Themyscira where they're all immortal until they die in combat, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Where was that? That's a layup of pathos.
We could have had the one picture, I believe.
Yeah, they had the one picture of Edda, and it's like, what the fuck, dude? Because like that was one of my like. I think you've seen it. Do you remember the first Highlander film? Where that's like
a long time ago, but yes.
So the first Highlander, the main character is immortal, and it's a huge plot point where he is seeing his wife start to, you know, grow old, and she's aware of what he is. And they have this heartbreaking scene in the first Highlander that always gets me. She, when she's in her, I think I think she's like about 40. She cuts off a lock of her hair and she gives it to him, and he's like, and she says, "I want you to have a piece of me that will never change like you." And there's just so much pathos with people who can't die by natural causes, watch people grow old and die around them.
Shit,
and that's just sitting.
They did it better in fucking Civil War and Winter Soldier.
With Agent Carter. Yeah, I have that in my notes on my phone that made me think back to that too. And like the Captain America sequels do such a better job of granting the character pathos by letting him soak in the fact that it's obviously more of a culture shock to him because he's just been introduced to that situation. But like that scene with him and Agent Carter as she has like Alzheimer's and, you know, barely recognizes him, it's heartbreaking. And that's just sitting there. Like they could have had a sequence with her and Edda, with Edda being really old, and at least acknowledge it. But all you get is a picture on her mantle, and it's like, I don't get it. And the one bit of character emotion they try to latch onto is her not getting over the fact that Chris Pine had died. And it's like, I get it. He was the first dude she'd ever, you know, fallen for.
He's also the first dude she'd ever seen.
But it's been 70 years. And like someone had pointed out to Mark Bernard, because Mark Bernard has been having a lot of issues with this movie on Twitter too. And like someone had pointed out to him, which was a fair point too, it's kind of disrespectful to people who are in a similar situation that have like lost spouses, because they make it out like, especially in a feminist superhero movie, the fact that she can't move on because of the guy. Oof, that's not good. That's something that I feel like Patty Jenkins should have acknowledged and been like, I don't think this is a good idea, guys. Like,
yeah.
And it's just, and I'm glad that they were able to come up with a way to, like, if they really wanted to have Chris Pine back, because they do have good chemistry together, but if this was the result, I think they probably would have been better off just ditching this whole wishing thing, because it feels like the wishing thing is just a plot contrivance just to have Chris Pine back. And as much as I love Chris Pine, maybe they should have just moved on and, you know, come up with a different storyline.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. As much as I liked having Chris Pine, and as much as I like him as Steve Trevor, it just brings up so many more problems to have to shoehorn him in. I liked having him in it. You know, I'm not saying anything about that. I thought he did a good job with the character. I mean, the Pop-Tart scene made it worth it alone. Yeah. But
everything I liked in this movie was between Gal Gadot and Chris Pine. I didn't actually like, as much as I like Pedro Pascal, I didn't like his character. I thought he was doing his best, but his character was just written so strangely.
I liked him because of how much of a shit he was, because I think Pedro Pascal made it fun for him to be a shit.
Yeah.
Because his character is such an over-the-top, like, 90s superhero movie villain that is trying to not be Lex Luthor, but also kind of like a dumb Lex Luthor.
Yeah, I mean, technically there is somewhat of a real estate scheme in play, because they do have Egyptian real estate that gets changed.
Yeah. Instead of real estate, you know, it's oil.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. The first part of the movie, the first like third of the movie, I was trying to figure it out. Once I finally figured out that this movie was just a 90s superhero movie, I was like, okay, and I quit looking at it as hard, and I just kind of sat back and just let it go, and that's when I started liking it. That's when I started liking Pedro Pascal. I was trying to figure out Pedro Pascal. I was trying to figure out, okay, we had a 20-minute triathlon or quadrathlon or quintathlon. How many events did they have in the triathlon at the beginning of that movie?
There's a lot of athlons.
And we had the whole cheating thing, and then it's like, well, trying to tie the cheating thing back in,
which makes no sense.
I was like, is it because she got her boyfriend back? Is that where she cheated? And when I finally just
she didn't even cheat intentionally.
Yeah.
She cheats intentionally in the flashback.
Yeah.
She didn't even know the stone was a thing when she wishes for Steve Trevor back. It makes no sense. It's
just one of those
amateur
fun moments because you do it because you know it'll never happen, and then she bumps into Steve Trevor again.
Yeah, it makes no sense. It's such bad writing. It hurts me.
Once I said fuck it and just let the movie do what movie gonna do, I started enjoying it a lot better.
See, I didn't hate this movie.
That does not make it good. The fact that I enjoyed it does not make it good, but I did enjoy it. The action scenes are not bad action scenes. That highway fight with all the armored APCs driving around. The A in APC is armored. I don't know why I said that, but that I liked that scene because she's in the middle of losing her powers. And she's still trying to figure out what the fuck is happening. She's web swinging around with the whip, the lasso, and loses her grip on it and falls. And you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I like most of the stuff with the chase sequence on the highway. It's just some of the bad CGI moments and awkwardly framed shots are in that chase, which kind of even took me out of. I couldn't even because
But if I had watched this movie, looks good. That's the thing I don't understand. Her flying around looked good for the most part.
If she's on ground, it looks like
from
shit.
lightning bolt to lightning bolt looked good. Her on the ground skipping to the loo across the road did not look good at all. Her leaping looked as good as the first one. That's the thing that did the strongest in the first one. Is her leaping and bounding from place to place was pretty good.
See, I didn't mind this movie really at all. Like I was picking up on some really just boring pacing issues and just how 90s it was. And when I was watching it, I still don't hate this movie. It's just such a waste of time and such a wasted opportunity that
it's a waste of the character.
Yeah, and it's really the one time that they were going to be able to bullshit their way into having Chris Pine back, and this is how you use that opportunity. That's frustrating. And
we had the Mandalorian in it, and the height of his popularity. Who knew he would be as popular as he is right now? Back in 2017.
Yeah.
When this movie was announced.
And if I had watched this like you did, right after watching the first movie, I probably would have been actively hating this. Because I dislike it. I dislike it much more after refreshing myself with the first movie again. Because
I think if I had seen this in theaters, I would have walked out pissed.
That too.
I think sitting at home watching on a service I already pay for month to month. I didn't stand to lose anything. I think if you and I had gone to a $5 Tuesday.
That's such a cop-out, though, for a filmmaking perspective. Because this wasn't intended to be that. This was intended to be their summer blockbuster. They're
this is $1 billion movie, which is supposed to have been.
So, the one movie everyone liked out of their entire DC movie catalog of the recent movies was Wonder Woman, and you have shitty CGI and a magic wishing rock plotline for the sequel? For the summer blockbuster, their biggest movie of the year? When their Justice League franchises collapsed and this is their flagship? What? It blows my mind. It literally blows my mind. And it's not a terrible movie.
This is the character that had all the memes of her carrying an unconscious Batman on one shoulder and an unconscious Superman on the other shoulder saying, I got this.
Also,
and this is what we got.
This movie had such bad cinematography. I looked it up to see if they changed cinema. It's the same person. The first movie has such gorgeous shots. Like,
I get the feeling no one wanted to make this movie.
It feels very phoned in.
Because the fight scenes in this are just almost amateurish. It's almost like watching a Michael Bay action shot.
You want to know what it is? It feels like a CW DC crossover. It doesn't feel like an actual movie.
I can see that.
Because, like, I was just watching the first movie today. There's so many great shots, like, even outside of the prototypical action sequences. The shot of when Steve Trevor is stuck in the plane in the ocean, and he's looking up, and he sees the silhouette of Diana on the opposite side of the water is a gorgeous shot. There's a really cool shot.
That's also a callback to a comic, isn't it? Or something like that?
I believe so.
But, yeah, it was a really cool shot.
That's a great shot. When Steve Trevor has stolen the book from Dr. Poison. They have this really cool shot where he's flying away and he turns back around to take out some of their planes and he's dropping a bomb into one of their production facilities of the gases. And like they have the shot of the camera like fixed to the front of the plane as he goes like perpendicular to the ground as the explosion happens like left frame. That's fucking cool. And I just watched this movie and I was like, like you said, it's fucking amateur hour. It's bad.
No one wanted to be there.
It is so phoned in. And I just don't understand. Like, of all the movies for them to phone in, dude, Aquaman has more vision than this. And I'm like, how did they have more, like a desire to not phone it in on that movie than Wonder Woman, like the literal flagship of their studio right now? It's crazy. It's crazy. So I'm trying to think of some things I did like. I liked Chris Pine and Gal Gadot. I think with the ending of the movie, what are your thoughts on like where they take Wonder Woman for the third movie? Because the third movie has been greenlit at this point because this was a big success for them on the streaming service just because of people not having anything else to do, and they really dropped it on Christmas where everyone's at home and we're looking to either spend an evening with the family watching a movie together, or people like myself that were social distancing and not with family. It was a good escape to go get depressed by a shitty movie for 3 hours.
Right.
So what do you think about what they do with the next one?
I don't have a goddamn clue.
I don't either.
Off, I'm not familiar enough with her and her villains.
She has very bad
even
villains.
Know where to take that. If it wasn't DC, I would say they need to start doing the team up route of just her and another hero that complements her abilities side by side. But it's DC. I don't want them to do that. And
the only character that she had any chemistry with was Batman, and that's not happening. Like, no, that's over. They have moved on to the Pattinson Batman, like completely separate universe. Like,
I don't honestly have a clue where to take it next.
Her most famous villain is fucking Cheetah, for Christ's sake. There's not much you can do because you saw how that worked out. They just ripped off Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman. They did it 1,000 times worse.
Can we stop giving Kristen Wiig work, please? It's time for her to go.
Yeah, I don't hate.
She's never been good.
I don't
in anything. She's never been funny in the time she's supposed to be funny. She's just Kristen Wiig, and no one cares.
Although I don't really blame her because fucking Gary Oldman couldn't have acted his way out of some of the plot in this movie. Like,
although Gary Oldman Cheetah would have been better.
Gary Oldman Cheetah, yeah, that is a good. So here's another thing: have
they fucked up Hot Girl yet? Hot Girl and Wonder Woman.
That'd be kind of cool.
Maybe.
I like that idea.
That was always in the Justice League cartoon. That was always a good team up.
Oh, dude. See, now just thinking back to the way Wonder Woman is in that cartoon makes me dislike this movie a little bit more because, like, fuck, Wonder Woman in that cartoon is a badass.
Oh, I know.
And it was probably like one of the things that makes it the most frustrating to me is it's not fair to the actors. Like, because this hasn't gone over well. Like, it was a quote unquote success just because they were able to get the next movie greenlit.
With the exception of Kristen Wiig, everyone in this movie did the best that they could.
Yeah,
Kristen
everyone
Wiig just showed up and got a check.
Everyone
and
did
she
the
got
best
something
they
off the
could.
craft services table. But you know the other thing I was thinking about, Jeff? You and I tend to praise movies like any of the Avengers movies for very tactical use of the Avengers theme. I kind of wish they wouldn't do that with Wonder Woman. In that first movie, you hear that theme like 5 times. Like, anytime she's doing something, banna, 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 banna.
And
in this movie, I was just like, if I at least had that, I would have that. You know? Like,
yeah, it's really strange because if I recall,
it's there, but it's like slow and almost classical sounding in places. Like, all the music is that theme. It's changing genres.
Yes,
only during the cheetah fight do you get the heavy metal version.
Which pissed me off because the heavy metal like intro is the best fucking like theme that anyone's come up with in the last 10 years.
And that came out of Batman versus Superman, dude.
Yeah, and here's the thing that's really strange too, that because I researched this because it struck me the wrong way too, because like you said, it's the heavy metal guitar riff or whatever it is only in the beginning of the cheetah sequence. This movie is scored by Hans Zimmer.
Yep.
Who scored Batman v Superman with Junkie XL and created the fucking theme song.
Yep.
So if anyone should be like wanting to, overuse, and I don't even think it can be overused because how badass it is. Like, every time it's used in the first movie, I'm jazzed and want to like go start a bar fight, dude, because this is such a badass theme song. And it's like the classical subdued representation of it is kind of cool, but it was like the main theme of the movie, and that's just, it's not as impactful. It's not her theme. And they didn't even redo it in an 80s themed thing.
Do you know how cool that could have been?
Yeah, it could have been like...
Give me synthesizer Wonder Woman theme from Batman vs. Superman just to hear it.
Because, like, that makes more fucking sense than what they did. They made, like, 17 different orchestral versions of it. I don't want that. I want the fucking heavy metal theme because it's badass. Why are you fucking with my theme, dude?
Anytime I hear it, I have the image in my head of them taking that piece of armor plating, launching her into the air, and she goes into that tower where the sniper is like a fucking cannonball, and her impact just blows the entire top half of the church off.
It's so good. And
then in this, I got like slow violin in places of it.
It's so badass, too, that sequence when she busts into one of the buildings and starts fighting the dudes, and the second before they kick in the music, they just, like, zoom in on her face with this, like, really pissed-off look, and then it, like, and it was like, yes! Dude,
there's
awesome.
a moment in the first movie, I think we're talking about the same thing. It kicks in as she, like, skids across the floor on her shield.
Sequence. Yeah, that's one of the sequences,
The only thing touching the ground is the shield, and the only thing touching the shield is her arm, and the rest of her is in the air. Yeah. And it is fucking amazing.
So Rupert Gregson-Williams is the guy who scored the first movie, and I love me some Hans Zimmer. Bring Rupert Gregson-Williams back, because also, I like the rest of the score in the first movie, too. The song playing during the No Man's Land sequence is very good, too. God. It's very emotional, and it matches the scene perfectly.
It's at least a third to maybe even a half of the reason why that scene is so impactful.
It's fantastic, and it's like even fucking Hans Zimmer phoned in this movie, and I'm just like, come on, why does this movie even exist if it's just so lazy in every regard? It's shot poorly. It's obviously written poorly. The only people who brought their A game were the actors, and I feel so bad when that happens. I feel the same way I did with the last season of Game of Thrones, because like all the actors are working their ass off, and they were just handed shit on the page, and it's like it's so disrespectful to your actors, and then the actors end up being the focal point and take the brunt when the movie is bad, because when people on Twitter, I'm sure, were complaining about this movie, they were complaining mostly probably to the actors because they're the face of the movie outside of the director. But the actors get the biggest like brunt of the lash back against it, and it's just like, Jesus, dude, it just sucks. It's really disappointing. I'm more disappointed than I am angry, just because
I'm not angry. I'm just
disappointed. Yeah. Yeah.
You went full mom voice with it.
I did.
Yeah. Well.
So yeah, I think I'm about
Listen, young lady, I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed.
I'm just disappointed. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all I've got. Did you have any other tidbits? Anything else we didn't bitch about when it comes to this movie?
No, not really. Like I said, the things I really, really liked turning off my brain and just letting the movie do what it was going to do, realizing it's a 90s film, not a fucking 2020 film. You know,
I can't do that.
I feel like everyone but Marvel is stuck in like 30 years ago superhero movies.
See, I can't turn my brain off and like lower my expectations of it. If I had never seen the first film, maybe, but fuck, that first movie is so good. I have high expectations, and I should, because they set the bar high and they fucking phoned in the second movie. And here's the thing too. Here's a thing I think DC needs to actually start actively doing. You need to approach these films the way they approached the new Robert Pattinson Batman movie. You need to approach a director who's obviously passionate about the material and has a take on it, instead of, hey, what is Geoff Johns doing because he's in the fucking like room down the hallway and he's a name in the company. I think part of the reason this first Wonder Woman movie was so good was because it was in development hell for so long, and because they had 20 different fucking variations of a script going around, where they had a lot of time to work on the script and polish it. The first movie's very polished from a script perspective. And the first movie, by the way, just so we've talked about it so much, screenplay by Alan Heinberg, off of a story by Jason Fuchs, Alan Heinberg, and Zack Snyder. And like the storyline of the first movie and its screenplay are so dramatically better that I hope they start taking that approach of pull a fucking Marvel. Like, Marvel has a little like writer's room. You know, the script that ended up being Guardians of the Galaxy was from the writer's room. They have like this little like weird, almost like a writing camp where they have people come in and they have them take. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna spend a year. You're gonna take a crack at this is, you know, retrospectively, you know, looking at it, but this person's going to take a crack at Guardians 1. This person's going to take a crack at Black Panther. And they've gotten some really great material out of that because they become passion projects for these people, because it's kind of like their one shot. Like the guy who wrote the first Wonder Woman, Alan Heinberg, was from Tulsa.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was born in Tulsa. So a dude from Tulsa had a passion project to write this really great Wonder Woman script, and it shows. Geoff Johns and Patty Jenkins couldn't have given less of a shit about the sequel script, and it shows, you know? So give it to people who actually care about it.
Yeah, how does this impact your excitement over the Rogue Squadron movie being helmed by Patty Jenkins?
I would kind of like to, since you brought it up, research more, because if she was brought in halfway through the script's production and they were kind of, you know, stuck between a rock and a hard place, I would have more.
I don't think it was that late, but I feel like it was like a couple months later at least before we heard, oh, hey, by the way, Patty Jenkins is coming back.
If she had 2.5 years to work on this movie.
I remember like Hollywood Babylon, and I remember like all of the entertainment podcasts just being like, cool, Wonder Woman 2, but you know, it's funny, no one's talking about Patty Jenkins. Where is she? And then we find out that, oh no, now she's on board. They've worked out like another 2 movies or something. She was only on for the first one. Like, haha, our bad. She's back. And that's the way I remember it, but it's been 3 years.
Because if she hadn't written it at all, I would consider this a complete script fluke, and I wouldn't blame her at all. Because as a director, there's only so much you can do if the script is complete shit. The fact that she has story credit worries me a little bit, but at this point, she made it a great movie. She helped make a mediocre movie, so we're kind of. I'm not like it's fucking Star Wars. I'm gonna watch it, but it does hamper my excitement a little bit. So yeah,
it does me too, because watching that first one, I was like, God, like the way action is handled in this, the way everything is handled in this is all I could ever want from a Rogue Squadron movie.
Yeah.
And I watched the second one, it's like,
Hey, on the bright side, there's probably not going to be Kristen Wiig Cheetah in Star Wars. So we have that going for us.
Oh my god.
That's pretty bad. I don't even hate Kristen Wiig, but like, fuck. What a shitty character.
I let Kevin Smith talk me into it may be okay, and I'm not listening to Kevin Smith's stoned opinions. Again, because
what was his take on what are we talking about?
I don't like Kristen Wiig. I don't think she's good at her job. I don't think she's ever been good once. I don't think she's ever been funny once.
Did you ever watch the Ghostbusters with her in it? I never watched it.
Hell no. She's the main reason I didn't go watch it, besides the fact that movie shouldn't have happened. But, you know, on like Hollywood Babylon, Ralph Garman was just kind of like, really? Kristen Wiig is Cheetah? And he's like, I don't know, man. She can do drama and stuff too, so let her be a villain. And he just went into this big old long thing about Kristen Wiig, and I was just like, I don't know. And then I watched the movie finally came out.
That's on you.
I was like, that's
on you for believing anything, because Kevin Smith can't be negative about anything. Period.
I know.
He's just because like
the most optimistic person I've ever listened to.
I love that about him, but when it comes to like film criticism, it makes his opinions completely worthless. Because like I watched one thing I strongly urge anyone who liked this movie or didn't like it, regardless, if you watch the movie, I recommend people go and check out Mark Bernardin. He's the co-host on one of Kevin Smith's YouTube shows now. He did a pitch of what he would have changed about the Wonder Woman sequel that is fantastic. And he in the span of 5 minutes, he literally writes a better movie. And it's just like, God damn it! If I was Warner Brothers and I saw that, Mark Bernardin would have had an office as a fucking at least a consultant like the very next day, because it's just a great revamp of it that it really would have fixed a lot of the problems. And I just wish we lived in a world where DC characters could get as much love as Marvel's do. Because like, how the fuck did Guardians of the Galaxy get more love than like some of the main Wonder Woman characters? You know, it's kind of fucked up.
You mean the movie with the talking raccoon in the tree?
Yeah, the talking raccoon in the tree almost makes me cry every time with that fucking I Am Groot sequence. But the second Wonder Woman movie makes me want to like
Groot.
Yeah, this WW84 just makes me want to like turn off my TV. It's sad day. But yeah, I think we're gonna call it on that. So if you have listened to us thus far, I apologize. We don't usually rant this much because usually we're covering stuff we like, or at least one of us likes. This was kind of a weird one-off thing. We just wanted to talk about WW84 because, like it or not, you know, it is interesting to talk about, to kind of examine where shit went wrong and like hypothesize about, you know, where it could go in the future.
We also didn't just get together and say, oh, this is finally our chance to be negative about something. It was just, we've been looking forward to this movie for 3 years. Yeah. And we were both bummed out that we had to watch it at home. I'm kind of glad I did. I think that leans into my part of liking it as much as I did. As I think I would have been angry walking out of a movie theater had I seen it in a movie
Had you gone out of your way?
Had I gone out of my way to drive 30 miles and pay money to go see it, as opposed to a streaming service I already had.
Magic Wishing Rock. Here's my $12 ticket. Let's go.
I wish I had that rock so I could get out of this theater. I will never be as pissed off at anything as I was Batman vs. Superman when I left that theater, though.
Oof. Yeah, that was bad. You know what was good about it, though? It used the fucking Wonder Woman theme, you know?
Oh, God. Dude, that's when that movie picks up, is when she shows up. Yeah. And I was like, where was this movie?
Yeah, for real. So, if you would like to check us out more, please follow us over on Twitter for show updates and some of this
the Twitter that's now being used.
Do what?
The Twitter that's now being used, I saw.
Yeah, I've been active on the Twitter now, finally, after we realized no one had been using it for 2 months.
We realized.
It's on Twitter at SPR Filmcast. And you can subscribe to us on Spotify, iTunes, all those things if you want to check us out more. What movie are we back with this next upcoming week? Ron, is your pick next?
It was Hollywood Homicide.
Hollywood Homicide. So yeah, you still have a little bit of time to go check that out if you care about spoilers, because we do go into full in-depth on all of the movies we cover. We'll probably eventually, I imagine these little mini episodes will become more of a thing once lockdown eventually ends and we actually get to, you know, go check out movies again, like more modern movies. Because like I feel like if this podcast had existed before lockdown, we would have come back from having seen something like Knives Out or The Lighthouse, and we're like, we have to talk about this movie. We have to talk about it. And it's just like an hour or so to squeeze it in. So it's fun to just shoot the shit about extra stuff and more modern stuff. So yeah, check us out, and we appreciate you for listening.